welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's December 11th, 2020, and this is episode 59. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. Coming to theaters this weekend is a cool entry in the Turner Classic Movies Big Screen Classics series. They are going to be showing on the big screen the film Fiddler on the Roof. Now, Fiddler on the Roof is a 1971 film. It's an adaptation of the Broadway musical of the same name. So you're probably familiar with much of the music, as well as you've probably have even seen this film at some point. But I think it's a terrific adaptation of this beautiful and memorable stage play. The film is directed by Norman Jewison, and in the lead role in the film is Topol, and Topol plays Tevye, who's the father of 5 daughters, and the film documents his struggle to attempt to maintain his Jewish religious and cultural tradition. Speaking of songs from the movie, or from the show, as outside influences are really starting to affect the life of him and his family. I got to see this on the big screen a few years ago at the Turner Classic Movies Classic Film Festival, and was really smitten by it, because again, I had only seen it on TV. So Fiddler on the Roof is going to be playing three days. It's playing on Sunday, December 13th, Monday, December 14th, and Wednesday, December 16th. And check your local listings. I'll have a link in the podcast notes on my blog, but it's at fathomevents.com/TCM. So again, if you're so inclined, that would probably be a cool one to catch on the big screen. And these Fathom Events things, particularly with COVID-19, the ones that I've been to, I'd say that there are 10 people or fewer in the theater, at least in our market here. So I felt pretty safe as well. Not to mention, again, the theaters, I think, are doing a very good job to try to keep them clean and keep people socially distanced. And again, I just appreciate all they're doing for that. One of the things that you might want to add to your calendar, and it's the last entry in the 2020 TCM Big Screen Classics films, is Babe. It's the 25th anniversary of Babe. Babe came out in 1995. It's the comedy drama about the pig who wants to be a sheepdog. And this was, I thought, just such an incredibly charming movie. It's directed by Chris Noonan. It's and adapted from a novel called The Sheep Pig. But it's done with a lot of cool visual effects. Because the animals talk. And the effects were done by a combination of CGI as well as some cool puppetry that the Jim Henson's Creature Shop collaborated with the filmmakers on this one. So Babe, and again, 1995 doesn't necessarily seem that. I mean, it's a while ago, but it's still, I think I would consider this a classic film, and definitely worth checking out on the big screen if you're so inclined. It's only playing on one day. It's playing on Sunday, December 20th. And again, you can go to fathomevents.com/TCM. I'll have a link to it on the blog, and hopefully, you can check out some classic cinema on the big screen. As a side note, TCM, I've heard from a pretty reputable source that they are most likely going to continue the Big Screen Classic series in 2021, and to look for an announcement soon. So as soon as that gets announced, I'll definitely want to talk about that on the podcast too. So cool stuff from TCM Big Screen Classics. Yesterday, December 10th, the Walt Disney Company put on a very interesting event for their shareholders, but I think, a lot of movie fans or just fans of the content that's created from the Walt Disney Company were paying attention to this. They called it a Disney Investor Day, and they had presentations from all of their studio leads that talked about content that they're creating for the Disney Plus service. And also, though, there was some cool motion picture news that got thrown in that I thought might just be worthy of addressing and letting you know. So first up in their film presentation was Lucasfilm. So Kathleen Kennedy, who's the head of the Lucasfilm division there at Disney, announced that the next Star Wars movie is a film called Rogue Squadron. It's going to be directed by Patty Jenkins, and that's really all we know. But it looks like it's going to be. It sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. And plus, Patty Jenkins is, she's just coming off of directing Wonder Woman 1984. She also directed that original Wonder Woman film a couple years ago. So anyway, it's exciting to at least to know that in December of 2023, we've got a Star Wars movie to look forward to. Most of the Star Wars content that's going to be created over the next while is our series that are going on Disney Plus. If you're a Star Wars fan and you're not watching The Mandalorian, you probably should, because it's really fun. It's a blast. And then they've just got all sorts of very interesting projects coming up with Star Wars over the next little while. So anyway, definitely worth checking out as far as Lucasfilm content on Disney Plus. But I'm really excited about just to know though that we've got a Star Wars film on the horizon, even if it's a few years away. They've got a lot of films that they are creating specifically for Disney Plus, and again, I think one of the cool things about Disney Plus is that it's an outlet for kind of the mid-range or mid-budget Disney film, family-friendly film, and so it'll be interesting just to see how some of these pan out over time, and again, I'll try to review them if they look interesting or they're of merit. One thing to note about the theatrical slate for Disney too is that they are just trying to, I think, to be nimble in this very unpredictable environment right now. So they what they're going to do for their next big film release, which is an animated film from Walt Disney Animation Studios called Raya and the Last Dragon. That was supposed to come out this past Thanksgiving, last month, and it got bumped up to to March of 2021. And what Disney announced yesterday is that they're going to release it in theaters, but they're also going to put it on Disney Plus with that Premier Access thing, like they did with their live action remake of Mulan that they did this year. And they didn't announce the price, but you pay extra and you can watch it on Disney Plus, or you can pay and see it in the theater if a theater is open in your market. So I think that that's actually a pretty good solution, and for this film, and we'll just see how it goes. Speaking of Disney Animation, they also formally announced that they've got their next animated film after Raya and the Last Dragon, which is scheduled to open in November of 2021, is a musical called Encanto. And it's a musical that they've worked on with Lin-Manuel Miranda. So I'm excited about that. It's a fantasy film that takes place in Colombia. And, we'll just see how it goes as we learn more. They just showed just kind of a little teaser clip of it, but we didn't get to see any of the characters or anything. But it sounds like it's a movie. It's a movie about a family, and I think the family's got some magic going on, and the house they live in is also supposedly a magical place too. So, fun fantasy family film to look forward to from Walt Disney Animation Studios. Pixar then presented, and they've got stuff that they're putting on Disney Plus as well. But what was of course interesting to me is just their films too. So of course we got their next animated feature, which is Soul, which is coming to Disney Plus, and it's also, they're not charging extra for it, but then also they're not trying to open it up in theaters either. So Soul will be on Disney Plus on Christmas Day, as I previously discussed. Then they've got a film called Luca, which is coming out in summer of 2021. And again, they're planning to open it up in theaters, but I think they're going to see what they want to do with, if they're going to put it also on Disney Plus. At the same time, we'll see. I think the plan again is just open up in theaters. And then they also formally announced their two films that are coming out in 2022. One is called Turning Red, and it's directed by the same director who did the short film Bow. I don't know if you saw that from Pixar about the woman who makes dumplings. Anyway, it's the mother who makes it's a good one if you haven't seen it. But Turning Red looks adorable. It's a comedy about a teenage girl who, when she gets overly excited, she turns into a giant red panda. And again, high concept film from Pixar, but it looked like it's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's in 2022. Also in 2022 is an origin film that they're calling Lightyear, but it's about Buzz Lightyear. But their take on it is that Buzz Lightyear was actually a human, like a real astronaut, and the toy, or the action figure, was based on the real life story of this Buzz Lightyear person. So it's going to be a story about the human Buzz Lightyear, and for whom the toy is based on. This human Buzz Lightyear is going to be voiced by Chris Evans, and I know those people were wondering why is it not Tim Allen? Well, Tim Allen was the toy version of this real, quote unquote real character. So anyway, that's where that's coming from. One thing that's interesting about this, it's a backstory film, and I'm often not that excited about these made up backstory things, but it's in the hands of Pixar, and it looks like it's gonna be cool. So that's also in 2022. So how exciting that we got some cool, Pixar news. Then just when you think it can get any, there can be any more content. And then the Marvel Studios people show up. She was Kevin Feige, who's the head of Marvel Studios, and one of my good friends and I, we say, and Kevin Feige, we trust. Just jokingly, just again though, about his track record, and you wonder, like, why are they making this movie? But then you're like, well, Kevin Feige's running this, and he knows what he's doing. So they've got a good team there at Marvel Studios. So Marvel Studios, same thing. They've got, just as with Lucasfilm, a whole bunch of content that they're putting out on Disney Plus. So, and all of the series that they're creating at Disney Plus are for Disney Plus, are going to be interrelated with the movies within their quote unquote Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, if you like these Marvel movies, you might want to consider checking out Disney Plus, because there's going to be a lot of content over the next 2 to 3 years. On the film side, which is really more to the point, Black Widow, which was supposed to open up this past summer, is still scheduled to open up on May 7th, 2021, and they're planning to open it up in theaters. So again, I think being flexible, that they might put it on Disney Plus as well, but they did not make that announcement, and let's hope that still is going to work. They also mentioned, so that they're filming, the next Thor movie, and it's called Thor: Love and Thunder. Christian Bale is going to play the bad dude in this next Thor movie. They still have got another Blade movie that's under development for under the Marvel Studios umbrella. We'll see if that's going to be family friendly or not. I would think that it would be, as these others are, but there were some Blade movies done years ago starring Wesley Snipes that were definitely R-rated. Then they gave some more information about their next film in the Ant-Man and the Wasp series. They're calling it Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are back as Ant-Man and the Wasp, and same with Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are back too. So I was pretty stoked. For that. They also, Kevin Feige talked about the Black Panther sequel, and he paid a very nice tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who sadly died this year. Who played Black Panther, in the original film, and they're not going to recast his role, and so it'll be interesting to see what kind of direction they take the film. And he said that's still on target. And then the other big announcement that he just dropped at the very end is that there's a film version within again the Marvel Studios group of the Fantastic Four. Now, I don't pretend to be a real comic book pro, but I do know that there has not been a good film version of the Fantastic Four, which I know is really considered to be like the first family of Marvel Comics. So I think that news was probably met with a lot of happiness from people. No details were given, nothing about, no cast, no director, no time, no timeline, but still happy news that the Fantastic Four, that there might be a good Fantastic Four film in our future. last week I talked about classic Christmas movies. This week I just want to talk a little bit about modern Christmas movies. I'm actually able to pick, as I did in last week's episode of the podcast, my 5 favorite classic Christmas movies. I got to tell you, I have a much harder time picking a favorite quote-unquote modern Christmas movie. And I was trying to find movies that were, maybe kind of like 1990 or later. So I think what I've got are 5 movies, 5 modern Christmas movies that I like. I don't just necessarily love them. They're a little, the picks might be or maybe a little unusual, but I gotta tell you, I just don't love these modern Christmas movies because I just feel like they're often too focused on dysfunctional families or dysfunctional people, or they're too saccharine for me, just for my taste, or I'm just wishing that there might just be something that maybe is a little meatier and has a little higher quality. Again, not that it has to be Shakespeare, but again, I really just don't love many really modern Christmas movies. What I really love, and I truly do, but they're not films, but I love there are 2 TV specials that I watch every year faithfully. Those over every Christmas season. One is A Charlie Brown Christmas from 1965, and then the other one is How the Grinch Stole Christmas that was made in 1966. So again, both kind of 30-minute TV specials and not movies, but those are the 2 that I personally really love, and that Charlie Brown Christmas, childhood favorite. It just purely sentimental, but it's actually got a religious message in it, and I think at the time it was either controversial or people just thought, how they're going to get away with this, but it's I think it's become a perennial favorite. It's now playing exclusively on Apple TV, but so you've got to have an Apple TV Plus. So you've got to have an Apple TV Plus membership. However, PBS is going to show it, if I'm not mistaken, this weekend. So you might want to check your local listings on that. But I love A Charlie Brown Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is terrific too. It's directed by Chuck Jones, the great director of so many Looney Tunes and other animated features. Narrated by Boris Karloff. I mean, come on, it's so great. I don't like any of the film. I mean, here I am just being Mr. Negative, but I don't care for any of these feature-length adaptations of The Grinch. I think that quote-unquote live-action one was just dreck. But and I didn't see the film from Illumination, the animated one. I just couldn't do it. I was talking about the backstory earlier about that new Buzz Lightyear movie that Pixar is working on. I just get so frustrated with backstory and all. They're trying to make the Grinch all sympathetic. I'm like, no, he's the Grinch. Just let it be. But still, I digress. The 1966 How the Grinch Stole Christmas TV special is bliss. So regarding the movies, just a quick rundown of the 5. These are actually in alphabetical order and not necessarily in any particular ranking from me. I literally had just a really hard time trying to pick the 5. So first up is Die Hard. I know that a lot of people, I think it's a bit of a humorous dialogue people have thinking about Die Hard as a Christmas movie. This is that 1988 action film with Bruce Willis. Really, the only thing that's Christmassy about it is that it takes place during a corporate Christmas party. But Bruce Willis he's an NYPD police officer, and he plays John McClane is his character name, and he comes to Los Angeles to try to make amends with his estranged wife, and it turns out that the building that his wife works in is getting taken over by German terrorists. So I guess they're trying to take people hostage. And anyway, it is such a kick. Alan Rickman plays the villain Hans Gruber, and he's just brilliant. Bonnie Bedelia plays the wife of John McClane, / Bruce Willis, and it's directed by John McTiernan. It's just an absolutely terrific action film, and it just happens to be set at Christmas time. So I'm calling it a Christmas movie just because, again, I was just grateful to find a movie that I liked that a lot of people consider a Christmas movie. So next up on the list is Elf. So Elf is the comedy from 2003, starring Will Ferrell as a little human. Will Ferrell plays a man, Buddy, and the origin story of it is that he's an orphan, and when Santa came to the orphanage one year, I guess when Buddy was very young, but he's crawling, he's a baby. He crawled into the toy bag and ended up at the North Pole, and so the elves raised him. And so, but he always feels out of place. But when he finally learns the truth that he came from this orphanage and whatnot, he wants to go find his biological father. And Elf is funny. I think it kind of slows down for me a little bit in the third act, and I get a little weary of it. But Will Ferrell is so funny in this role, and it's got such a great cast. There's Bob Newhart and James Caan and Mary Steenburgen, and it's heartwarming and all the stuff that a quote unquote holiday movie is supposed to be. But it's also got a bit of an edge. Zooey Deschanel's in it too. She's cool, and it's highly quotable. A lot of really funny gags. Directed by Jon Favreau too, so that's cool. But Elf is is pretty fun. Maybe not necessarily like my favorite or best one ever, but definitely one that I can tolerate, that I like. And I'm sounding like Scrooge here. Sorry, thanks for putting up with it. So next up is actually one that I watched recently, and it's called Klaus or Klaus, Klaus. It's an animated film that's on Netflix. It was made for Netflix, and really an interesting animated film. It's directed by Sergio Pablos and Carlo Martinez Lopez, and it's kind of an interesting, almost like a Santa origin story, or just one look at it, one take on it. This town gets a new postman, and this postman is going to this little town begrudgingly, and this town is messed up. They've got a big family feud going on. It's like the Hatfields and the McCoys kind of deal. But then the postman meets this lonely toy maker, and he ends up convincing the children. The postman convinces the children of the town that if they send a letter to this toy maker, that he'll. I'm not doing a great job explaining this, but this toy maker will make a toy for them. And then also the postman starts telling the kids that the only way that they'll get a toy is if they're nice and not naughty, to try to modify the behavior. So the kids' behavior starts improving, particularly these kids that are part of these feuding families. And so it lifts up the town, but also we learned some stuff about this toy maker that he's had a bit of a tragic past. But this everybody turns around. So really interesting character arcs for the postman and for the toy maker, and then for all the stuff that's going on with the town. And so I guess very compelling story for me. I thought the story was very interesting, and I love the animation style. It's done clearly with computers, but there's just a real lot of artistry to it. Really interesting character designs and unique backgrounns, and I was really quite taken with it. So if you haven't watched Claws yet on Netflix, I say definitely check it out, and please forgive my terrible description of it. Okay, next one is a totally random one, but I'm throwing it out there. It's a 1994 film called Mixed Nuts. Now, Mixed Nuts was written and directed by Nora Ephron, who is terrific. This film, I had never heard of it, and some of my good friends, it's like their family Christmas movie. It's their go-to film, and so they had me over last year, and I watched this for the first time, and just thought it was an absolute kick. It stars Steve Martin and Madeline Kahn, and hello, what's not to like about that? But they play. It's really just like the events over a 24-hour period at a place that runs a crisis hotline. So people that are going through a crisis can call this line and hopefully get some assistance or some comfort. And I'd say that actually it's a bit of a black comedy because it's twisted, but funny. Again, set at Christmas time. It's actually Christmas in Southern California, so no snow, but still weird enough, but funny enough that it might be worth checking out. I think there you can. I think it's available to rent on Amazon Prime Video, or you can look and see if I think it's available also to rent like on Apple iTunes. So Mixed Nuts might be something worth checking out if you're wanting to see something different and weird for the holiday. The last one that I picked was the stop motion animation film The Nightmare Before Christmas. So again, a bit of a twisted choice, but I think this is really it's really a well done film. I had the chance to see it on the big screen not too long ago as well. I was actually for Halloween. I got invited to a private screening that Cinemark does. One of those you can like invite 20 friends to see it. So again, we could socially distance and it felt safe, but it was just fun to see this on the big screen. It's the creation of the story is done by Tim Burton. In fact, I think the official title of the film is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's actually directed by Henry Selick, who's a stop motion animation pro, but this is such an inventive film, such an interesting design. Leave it to Tim Burton to do this twisted hybrid of the Halloween and Christmas holidays. But I think that a lot of people, view this as a classic film. I think it's a beloved film. Again, in its own twisted way. So the Nightmare Before Christmas is the final entry on my quote unquote modern Christmas movie list. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the Movies Past and Present podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Links are also on the blog. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Until next time, thanks for listening and be safe out there.